Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. Thanks for joining us in this episode of Industry Connects, our podcast where we try to connect our local AEC industry professionals to the people around the world and vice versa. Today, I've got a very special guest. And the reason I say special is one, because I've known this guy for almost, 12 years now. And two, he's also known as one of the nicest guys in the AEC industry in Australia. So please welcome Mr. Shaun Miller. Shaun, thanks for joining us in this podcast.
A pleasure, Deepak. Thanks for having us along. Hello to all of the viewers.
And listeners, because some people might only just listen to us.
And listeners.
So although this is a video podcast, but because we also post it on Spotify, so some people just listen to us in the car. So we've got both viewers and listeners.
Brilliant.
All right, so Shaun, Sorry, what was that?
I hope everyone's enjoying their commute with the podcast.
Yes, that's right, exactly. All right, so Shaun, tell us about yourself. Where are you based?
Okay, so we're based in Perth, Western Australia, do work all over Australia and occasionally over the world as well. So proof that you don't need to be in the same place as the projects again, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. So I need to set some ground rules for this podcast. First, we are not going to use the term pandemic or COVID. If you use this term, you'll have to put a dollar coin in the jar. And the next time when we meet, you'll have to buy me a beer.
Of course.
So using this term. You can use the term situation. That's acceptable. So tell us, are you guys in lockdown as well? Because we in Sydney, we are in lockdown, and we just came to know this morning that our lockdown has been extended for another 4 weeks.
4 weeks. Look, we are not. We are in the delightful, isolated bubble that is Western Australia. Bubble is maybe an incorrect term. It's definitely a very hard border. We were looking at travelling to Queensland in the next couple of weeks. But we're not able to get permission to re-enter the WA, so we've had to put that on hold. But essentially, life over here is very, very normal. No masks. We still check in everywhere, obviously, but certainly not what you guys are facing over there at the moment. So thoughts are with you. Hang in there. Stay safe.
Yeah, well, in all honesty, it's not bad. Although I've been working from home for almost just over a month now. It's not bad. We are still blessed compared to some of the other places in the world. Yeah. But anyways, no more talking about that stuff.
Absolutely.
So tell us about yourself. What's your passion? Tell us about your passion.
Look, I was thinking about this in preparation, and I really just enjoy solving problems. So or learning new things or getting things to work. So I've got a few little sort of projects going along. So in the kitchen sort of arena, I want to be able to make a really, really good coffee. Haven't quite got the latte art sorted, but it's just that sort of thing where it's like practice, try, refine, practice, try, refine. So same for mixing the perfect margarita, doing the perfect poached egg, all of that sort of thing. Enjoy building electronics, so I've got some hi-fi gear that I've built from components, soldered all of that together, and enjoy that sort of thing. And I guess that's where I sort of fit into the industry, is that I actually enjoy working with the software, working out construction problems, how to solve it, and then bringing people along for the journey as well. So I guess that's my passion. Love a puzzle.
That's fantastic. It actually reminds me of this funny story. So we were on the plane with one of my colleagues, Bruce Trevina, and we were headed to Perth, and this is going back about 8-10 years now. And this was the time when the ports on the plane were still those three. For the audio, there used to be those.
The headphones.
Headphones, yeah. There used to be these three holes, whereas the headsets that they used to give us on the plane used to have one single pin. Remember those days?
Yeah.
There was this lady sitting next to me. So it was Bruce on the left, I was in the middle seat, and there was this lady next to me. and she was struggling with that. And I started helping her. And Bruce said,
Mm.
once a tech support person, always a tech support person. You you can't see anybody struggling with anything. We always jump in and then try to help them out.
Yeah, yep. That's how we make the world better.
Exactly, 100%.
Yep.
So tell us, what do you do in your free time, Sean?
So free time, there hasn't been too much of it lately. Generally, enjoy a craft beer. Try to get out on the bike a little bit. So cycling a lot less than I have been previously, but it's still good fun. Yeah, catching up with mates, bits and pieces around the house. Built the house probably 12, 13 years ago, so now it's firmly in the place of kind of needing a lot of upkeep. So yeah, that's generally what keeps me busy.
Nice, nice. Coming to cycling, I actually was looking for that T-shirt. So you do quite a bit of cycling, and you've done it for charity as well. I remember bike ride for MS is what you did a little while back, and I remember
Yeah,
getting a T-shirt from you that had
yes.
that thing on that. So I was looking for that T-shirt, but I couldn't find it. I was thinking I'm going to wear that T-shirt today. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So that one was actually the that challenge was the North South Vietnam challenge. So that's actually for the Christina Noble Children's Foundation. So Christina Noble is an expat that moved to Vietnam and basically set up support services for underprivileged and at-risk children. So they're very close to having educated 1 million homeless children in Vietnam.
Wow.
They've been operating for probably close to a couple of decades now. And it was a cause that sat really well with me because, one, I love a bit of travel through sort of Southeast Asia, love a bike, so that worked really well. But just in terms of some of the work that she does for disadvantaged or disabled children as well. So there's a lot of stories where in Vietnam, a family who ends up with a disabled child or a child with special needs, it can have a really, really massive impact on their livelihoods.
Yes.
They don't have the safety nets that we have over here, and Christina Noble helps with those kids as well. So that's the one that really, really got to me because of Cleo with my daughter needing special support as well. So that's what got me involved with that. The challenge itself was a 600-kilometre bike ride, essentially. Wow. Starting from the north of Vietnam down to the south. There was a few sections where we jumped on the train, did an overnight, and that sort of thing. It was lovely. If you ever get the opportunity to travel through some of these beautiful countries, highly recommend doing it on a bike.
Well, interesting you should say that because a couple of years back we had our conference in Thailand, and
Yep.
then our director Ibrahim, one of my colleagues Stephen Sood, and we ride motorbikes here together. So we ride in a group.
Brilliant.
So we then did a 2 days motorbike trip. We started from Pattaya and then we went somewhere. So it was like a 2 days trip. I think about 600-700 kilometers. I can't remember exactly.
Yep.
But that was on motorbikes, not push bikes.
Yeah, it's a little bit faster. You see more on a push bike.
Yeah, that's right. We actually, although it's not too much, but I reckon we were touching about 150, 160 k's an hour on
Right.
straights.
Yep.
Which was funny. Although I just want to add one last thing about that that bike ride. So our tour leader was actually leading the tour for the first time. His missus used to lead the tour, but apparently they separated or whatever. So he was leading the tour for the first time, and we came to an end, like it was more of a dead end, where we had to go to the other side of this massive river.
Yep.
And the only way to get from this side of the river to the other side was on a bamboo bridge.
Oh, right.
And the bamboo bridge was around 800 millimeters wide.
Yep.
So 800 millimeters is how much? About 2.5 feet?
Yep.
Yeah, just over 2.5 feet.
Yep.
And it was swinging like crazy.
Right.
And we rode our bikes from this side to the other side. And it must have been about 150 meters long bridge.
Right.
And as we were riding on it, there were people walking from the other side as well.
Yep.
And because it was not wide enough, we had to stop, lean over, and let the people pass.
Yes.
But that was the single most scariest, but the single most amazing things that I've done in my life as well. Looking down in the river, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish I had my GoPro turned on at that time. It ran out of
Yeah.
battery about
Yep.
half an hour before that. But
Yeah. No, it's amazing how things that really get the heart pumping make life worthwhile.
so, tell me about Parametric. Tell me about your company.
Parametric is a very small consultancy based in Perth, Western Australia, that deals with essentially digital documentation. We came from a background of essentially being a drafting bureau. This would have been almost 20 years ago now. And that sort of transitioned into the sort of whole outsourcing kind of arrangement. So we went from a specialist sort of subcontractor to more of a broader industry with outsourcing. We stayed onshore, so we didn't sort of head over to sort of countries where the labour is a little bit cheaper, and faced obviously quite a lot of competition from there. So we sort of worked out that it's not so much about being able to use software and that sort of thing. It's much more about how buildings go together. The fact that we are basically a communication conduit between sort of architects and designers, engineers, and the guys on site. The person that's in Wellington boots up to their ankles in concrete really needs very clear information in a format that he can use right there and then. So
100%.
that's what we sort of focus on. Parametric tends to work less so now in that sort of contract sort of role. We are joint venturing more with very good design practices. So architects that are really good at the architecture side of things, but maybe not as strong in BIM, or haven't got up to speed, or they just need a team of half a dozen guns on their project right now, kind of thing. So that's how we tend to fit into industry in that sense. We support projects more through their life cycle now than we have previously. So we'll be involved in projects sort of pre-bid phase, help out with modelling. If our client wins the project, then we'll help them with the design development and contract docs. Once it goes to site, then we help subcontractors with some of the fabrication modelling. We go through, we do as-builts, and then some of the FM modelling and updates as well for projects all over the place.
Fantastic. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Parametric used to be called as Bowman Bureau in
Yes.
olden days.
Yeah. So the Bowman Bureau was because it was a drafting bureau, and we're on Bowman Street in South Perth. So the the name was around before I bought into the business.
Okay, right.
I started. I think it would have been maybe 9 or 12 months after the Bowman Bureau first started, and through a series of circumstances, the architects that owned part of it were sold their share, and I bought it. And so essentially, I'm still working my first job after qualifying.
Wow, that's fantastic. That actually leads me to my next question. So, what's your role at Parametric? Are you the sole owner, or like?
No. So I've got a business partner, Candice Bowles,
Candice,
who's also a director. So it's two owners, two directors. We've got a team of 10 people now helping us out. So that's essentially the structure of how we're working. We've recently moved down to Fremantle from West Perth, and downsized our office significantly. So we found that when we worked all from home for a few months, for various reasons, that it worked relatively well. So we have relied heavily on platforms which I'm sure you're familiar with, BIM 360 and all of that sort of thing. So it enabled us to be very, very agile with that. We downsized our office. We're now in about a third of the space or a quarter of the space that we used to have. We don't have enough desks for everyone in the business, so people work from home or are placed in clients' offices or project offices, and we do things a little bit more flexibly.
Nice. By the way, well played. You just saved yourself a gold coin.
Oh, why's that? Oh, because of the mention of certain situations. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll still buy you a beer when you get over here, though. It may even be two.
How is it? All right. Well, we'll see. Can't wait for it.
Yeah.
So you moved from where you were earlier because I've been to your office a few times. I remember Ali used to get me in to do some presentations and so on.
Yes.
So, all right. So, talking about your role at Parametric, what keeps you going? What makes you get up every morning and makes you go to work at Parametric?
Look, I think it really does lead through to the what's my passion, what do I do in my free time? It's problem solving. So it's getting people answers to the questions and problems that they face in design or in construction. It's helping bring the team up to speed internally. I really enjoy when projects come together and everyone's on the same page. So we really strive for sharing information as soon as we can, and driving all of that information out of the model. So we use once again BIM 360 for our clients, and we give our clients access to our work in progress models as we're modelling. All of the drawings, everything, so that they can see exactly what's going on in the project, and we do that across the consultant teams as well. So being able to give people information that they need, and make their work days, hopefully a little bit easier, a little bit more entertaining. We definitely try to keep it light on that sort of personal sort of level. That's what I enjoy with work. So really lucky to be working on tiny projects that mean the world to some of our smaller clients, and then massive projects that have teams of hundreds or thousands of people that are all working together. So, yeah.
See, that resonates with me so much. I remember in 2018, I was teaching at UTS, so University of Technology Sydney.
Yep.
And the project that we used for that class was the new UTS building that was actually getting constructed next door.
Yes.
So the construction company, which is Richard Crooks Construction, their DE, I think his role was the director, Tyrone. So Ty, I'm sure you know him. He's actually moved back to Perth now.
Okay.
So Ty was Tyrone Pediachi. So he helped
Oh,
me
yes.
in that class, and
Yep.
because he was from Richard Crooks, so that's why he was able to provide us the model, and to see those students use the model and at the same time see the building next door getting constructed was such
Yep.
an amazing feeling, especially
Yeah.
for the kids, because they could, well, not kids, but especially for the students. They are not kids; they were
Yeah.
in post graduation or graduation courses. But yeah, the fact that they were able to see it next door was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think the really interesting thing with that sort of model view of the world is that when we had a team working on Optus Stadium, a lot of the subcontractors, because we were there during the construction phase, a lot of the subcontractors there was no time between when things were modelled and designed to when the guys were actually installing it. So it was very much that sort of last minute or design just in time sort of thing. And the guys would come in and actually just look at the area that they were going to be working on the guy or on the team's screens, and would see it, and 3 or 4 seconds. Oh, yep, I know exactly what I'm doing today, would walk off to site and then put it all together. So, that rapid sort of communication without actually relying on drawings was amazing.
Yeah, I remember I was teaching some teams, and this is in Perth, teaching some teams who were working on the Optus Stadium,
Yep,
and we had this model that was put together by Alistair Brook
yep,
at PDC. So we were using one of those models, and one of the guys asked me, "Can you have a quick look at how many of these columns do we have?" And inside Navisworks, I could simply do a quick, because I had search set saved. I just quickly clicked on the search set and gave me the total count. And the
yep,
guy was absolutely amazed that we've got the technology now. In a click of a button, it would show me exactly how many of those columns do we have. Like,
yep.
when people look at this kind of technology, it's amazing what it can do for you.
Yeah, yeah. And the battle is always just making it accessible to people. So,
100%.
we like I said, we work with very design-centric architectural firms, and they, are old school. So, butter paper, pens, they still use digital, but have not worked in sort of a model environment and that kind of thing. And, we bring them along with essentially BIM 360 and a low overhead or low barrier entry to the models is just jumping online, panning around, having a look,
Exactly.
and they're able to screenshot things, email, and it gives them access to the information that they wouldn't have had previously. So
100%.
it's amazing. And look, we chuck people in VR with models and that sort of thing all the time as well. And the amount of stuff that you can consume as a human being through visual representation is massive compared to a set of drawings. So we use a lot of Enscape and a lot of VR to really get that engagement with people, because if they've got a clear idea, they can give us a really clear answer, and that makes sense from us from a business point of view, because we're not doing rework. The project goes quicker, and the client is happy because they get exactly what they want because they've seen it.
100%. I actually mentioned this in one of my previous podcasts as well. So Silver Thomas Hanley, who mainly deal with hospitals and that kind of stuff, they sent me
Yep,
to one of their clients. The hospital is called it's called Kurangai. What is it called? Hornsby Kurangai Hospital,
yep,
and they sent me there to show the team a bit of VR stuff, because Silver Thomas Hanley had put together a VR model of the stuff, and the construction manager puts the goggles on and he's flying through the hospital. And I said,
yep,
"Man, you must be playing video games till 2 in the morning because you are so good at it." And the guy said, "I have never ever touched this technology, but the reason I
really,
can do this is because I know the hospital as the back of my hand, and I know
yeah,
exactly where I can go and so on." But he said the kind of understanding I'm getting now with the VR is a million times better than I would have when I was looking at the drawings and 2D sheets and all.
yep,
So you are
yep.
spot on.
Yeah, we
Uh,
had a hotel project in Victoria actually, and we were working through design development, and I put the goggles on just to have a walk through, and it's amazing even just for model QA purposes. It's like, oh yep, we've
Correct.
missed that little bit there. That door needs to be sorted. You just pick up so much so quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. One of the
Yeah.
things the guy mentioned, and again, I mentioned this in one of the previous podcasts as well. The guy said we need certain line of sight when we are standing on here in the corridor. We need certain line of sight for fire safety purpose and so on. Even
Yep.
when you look at a 3D model or a BIM data as we call it, you still do not get the proper understanding whether you've
Yep.
got the proper line of sight or not. But when you put the goggles on, it's a totally different ball game.
Yeah, yep. And it's always entertaining as well. So we did some fabrication work for this subcontractor on the Perth Airport Link, the train stations,
Oh yeah,
and it was around the roof sort of structure and aluminium panels. So we had the fabrication steelwork model in, and the concrete sort of the platforms below. Now this roof is maybe 24 meters above platform level. So it's a sort of 4-story hole down and then 2 stories above with the roof. And I dropped one of the guys into VR in that model, very, very basic model. But he's found himself standing on a piece of steel that is elevated, a long way up from the ground, and he really found that quite a shock. He sort of crouched a little bit and dropped to the ground and sort of sharp inhale of breath and that kind of thing, because he really did feel he was standing on a very narrow piece of steel, much like you on the bridge, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So that's always good fun.
Yeah. Well, I've done some naughty stuff like that with VR models, so I'm not gonna get more into it. But yeah, it's fun turning things on or off when people are standing on the roof. So
Yep.
it's funny.
Yeah.
So coming back to your association with Parametric, so how long have you been associated with the BIM and digital engineering side of it?
Look, so we were pretty good at AutoCAD. We were guns. I foolishly said to Michael Brewer at one stage before we'd really gone into Revit that look, my team would draw just rings around you guys with this, like it'd be no problem at all. And boy, was I wrong. So we ended up getting into Revit during the GFC. So that doesn't cost a coin, by the way. That's a previous, current circumstances.
Yes.
So we had a team of people with not a huge amount of work to do, and Autodesk were obviously rolling out sort of cross grades from, I think it was AutoCAD to directly to Revit, or it might have been Building Design Suite back then. Who knows? But we grabbed that. We grabbed some training and got stuck into that side of it. And then, being the problem-solving sort of nerds that we are, we just have not stopped since.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. It must have been just after GFC when Ali first invited me over to do some training for you guys. I remember Candice was in that training as well.
Yeah, the Navisworks stuff. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
brilliant.
Navisworks training, correct? Yeah, exactly. So now, because you've known the industry so well for such a long time, what do you think with the current situation that we are in? And you mentioned that within your own office also you don't have the desks for everyone. So where do you think the industry is going? Where do you think what would be the new norm according to you?
Look, I think the new norm is flexibility and mobility. You need to kind of be able to work sort of wherever and however you are, and that's not just in the sort of digital engineering modelling sort of space. That's a subset of, I guess, the problems that we face as an industry. The other one is just really communication. So face-to-face communication's challenging at the moment. The ability to use platforms like Teams, for project-based chat. So we quite often open up our Teams portals to our clients and that sort of thing, so that we can actually sort of share information and have informal communication that's much more rapid than emails and not as intrusive as phone calls. So there's a lot of ways that you can still be connected and working, and there's still definitely a place for face-to-face meetings. There's definitely still a place for paper drawings at the moment. The guys on site, that's what they need. But we see that changing massively. We really do.
I 100%.
Yeah, the fact that essentially every tradie's got a smartphone on site now, and 5G's out there now. 4G worked great, so 5G is going to be even better. And I think if we look at industry, maybe with Google Maps as an example, sort of thing. So I did a presentation a few years ago with this example, and researching it was quite interesting because Google Maps wasn't sort of really around more than 8 years ago, and it's sort of like, really, it's only that young. And if you actually go back and look at a lot of the platforms that we use, they are very, very recent compared to well, how long we've been working in the industry. Deepak, but the Google Maps example. So a map is essentially a piece of paper, has a representation of what the environment is. You can use it for a number of purposes. You can find where you're going, you can measure, and all of that sort of thing. And for us, it's that's a really good analogy for drawing, sort of thing. So we'll have people put requests to us in terms of drawings. I just need your RCPs, reflected ceiling plans. When we use a map, we don't ask for a map, we ask for directions. And so the maps went from paper to digital, and we could use them that way. Then the sort of virtual assistants came along where you can just say, hey, Siri, how do I get to work from here? And put the headphones in, and Siri or Google Maps just tells you directions. So the fact that someone asks for a map is a little bit of a different thing to, just tell me where to steer my car. And I see that being a massive thing for industry. You don't need a concrete setup drawing. You need to know where to put the formwork, sort of thing. Right. So, it is still very sensible to have a concrete setup drawing. But if it's a GA plan or a standard sort of domestic type drawing, those concrete setups can be very, very challenging because they then have to do the maths on site. And if it's a complex shape, maybe the surveyor wants just coordinates. So that difference and shift away from drawings to information that's structured the way that people need it for their purposes.
Yep, 100%. Interesting because you mentioned that Google Maps not that old, and I remember I was in the US and I was with someone, and we were driving from the Los Angeles airport going to one of the suburbs, and that was the first time I saw Google Maps showing traffic condition. You know how it turns red when it is heavy traffic and so on?
Yep.
And it must have been, one of those features that was released just recently at that time. And I looked at it and I said, what's this? Because my Google Map didn't show that when I was driving using Google Maps back home. Yeah. So it must have been one of those. So you're right. Google Maps, when you think about it, it's not that old. It's only just a few years. Yeah. But having said that, talking about maps and drawings and so on, I don't know. I love digital technology, obviously. I'm a big promoter of it. I talk about it all the time. But coming to books, although all my books are still, they are in digital format as well, so Kindle or iPads and so on. But I'm still one of those people, like you've got your bookshelf behind you. I'm still one of those people. I prefer printed book for some reason. Maybe it's just my mindset. I found a really nice book on Amazon, and it was printed in the US. So to get that book from US to come here, it costed me about $35, so 35 US dollars, which is nothing. But the Kindle version of it was 80 cents. So the Kindle version of the same book was 80 cents, and I could have gotten instant access to it. But I still ordered the paperback version because I said the way I love paperback version, my son's gonna love that as well. So I'm still, for books, I still like the paperback version for some reason. Maybe it's just my mindset.
Yeah, look, I think there's a place for all of it. So, we used to think that the only way to do a project would be to, have weekly face-to-face meetings and everyone takes their own notes and then disappears and comes back in a week. Now we have chats and send memes to our clients on Teams.
100%.
We occasionally pick up the call or the phone if we need to, maybe discuss something, or we'll impromptu go from that Teams chat to a screen share and navigate around the model and that sort of thing. So we've got different ways of communicating based on what we need. And look, I definitely think there's still a place for books. I still have very fond memories of flicking through your book, trying to work out what you're talking about in the class that we went through for Navisworks. So they're a great way of consuming information. But then if there's, if I was after, 4 or 5 words out of your book, give me a PDF, Control F, find, done, sort of thing. That's great. But to actually, it just depends on the circumstance, sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm just one of those people. I prefer paperback for some reason.
Yep.
All right. So coming to the next question, where do you see the AEC industry, especially in the ANZ region, in the next 5 years?
Wow. If you'd asked me this question 18 months ago, I would have said it in a pretty bad place. We had pretty grave concerns for the industry, for our business, our livelihood, all of that sort of thing. And it's been interesting seeing the transition to where it is now. I'm not sure whether it's as bonkers busy on the East Coast as it is over here, but it is just wild. There is just so much work to do. So from a growth point of view, in 5 years, I cannot see the current situation being sustainable. I think it's going to ease off a little bit between now and then. In terms of the types of work that we're doing, there's obviously massive uplift in infrastructure type projects, and there's a transition to like those projects that we sort of work on from sort of bid phase, design and construction, and then through into sort of as-builts and FM. There's a lot more of that coming. 5 years time. Look, I think it's going to definitely be more connected, more mobile, more visual, and a little bit more tailored to what or how people use information. So whether it's digital or scheduled or whatever, that's where I sort of see it going.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with you on that. More mobile, more connected, and customized to how people want to consume the information. That is how things are going to be. I totally agree with you. But interesting, you were talking about that. Last year, I saw somebody send some meme on WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever it was, where they said, I guarantee you, nobody answered the question right when somebody asked them last year, where do they see themselves in the next 5 years?
Yes.
Nobody predicted what's going to happen. So it's interesting. But the good thing about the AEC industry, and I'm not just talking about Autodesk, I'm also talking about Bluebeam and some of the other products as well. The AEC industry as a whole was, I think, already getting up to speed with connected construction or connected workflows through cloud solutions. So I remember we started talking about collaboration for Revit C4R going back about 6-7 years. And there were a lot of companies, especially a lot of architectural companies, that jumped onto that cloud workflows and found it really handy. So I just have a feeling that the AEC industry somehow wasn't really affected by this because it was already gearing towards using a lot of connected cloud workflows.
Look, I think the thing is that whenever you have a tool that you're not 100% proficient with or know all of its capabilities, and then there's no pressure either internally or coming externally to be working differently, then you never actually really leverage it or rely on it. So we'd had Office 365 and by virtue of that Teams for quite a while in our business. We had Collaborate for Revit for quite a while, and we used it sporadically. The efforts to try and get the team to use Teams, for example, were often, the uptake was never really there until we were all working from home. And then everyone, and it's that cultural shift from, it doesn't matter that I'm not really comfortable with using Teams, or I don't know all of its features or how to access stuff. All of a sudden, there's just an understanding across the board that everyone's using potentially technology for the first time, or they're using it in a way that they haven't used it before. And we're all human, we all make mistakes, and the amount of support that's come back from everyone being essentially in the same situation and facing the same sort of adversity has meant that we can all try and fail, we can learn, we can help each other, and not be freaked out by it. 2 years ago, if you said, "Yep, we'll interview you in your front room on a tablet and record the video and that sort of thing," it'd be like, nah, forget it. I'm not ready for that yet. But now it's just it's situation normal.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that the AEC industry was gearing towards this, but there were still people in that mindset where they didn't really want to work in that collaborative environment. And I reckon those were the people who just found this situation really overwhelming. But eventually they had to get onto the bandwagon. They just couldn't work the older ways.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for them.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we still work with some very traditional workflows. And it's interesting because they have developed for a reason, sort of thing, and understanding the reasoning behind the way that we used to work makes adapting sort of how you approach technology and those interfaces with your clients or other consultants or even the contractor or the guys on site. All of that is still, the basics are still there. They still need to happen, but it's just how we do that now.
Correct. Yeah. Having said that, look, to be honest, I still miss working from the office. I reckon, and this is what I mentioned in one of the chats we had last year as well, that we being social animal or people like people interaction, whether you call it the office kitchen gossip or whether you want to call it whatever you want, we all miss that. So I reckon in my case, I would still prefer going to the office at least 1 or 2 days a week whenever I can. Also for the reason that in Glebe, where our office is, we are spoiled for food choices. We have amazing food there. I made this statement, and a couple of people didn't agree with it, but most of them did. That one of the Thai restaurants that we've got there it's the best Thai food in the history of mankind. I reckon it's amazing Thai food. Plus, there's this place called Tram Shed, which is just 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes drive from where we are. Amazing food choices there. There's this place called Bell's Chicken. So Bell's Chicken is fried chicken. Now you might think of fried chicken, but it's one of the best fried chicken. And on their menu, so the way you pick what you want is you pick the meat, whether you want wings or whether you want drumsticks or whether you want burger or whatever. And then you pick the heat that you want.
Brilliant.
So the heat options that they've got is Southern, which is like no heat, mild, medium, hot. And on the menu, it says effing hot. That's on the menu. And one of our guys, he eats a lot of chili, and he once ordered effing hot. And he was having a bite of his chicken and 2 sips of his lemonade because it was so hot for him as well. I normally order mild. I once ordered medium, and I had literally sweat, coming down my forehead. It was so hot for me. But again, I miss all that. I miss the fact that you know, gossiping with the mates in the office or food options. That's the bit I miss the most.
Yeah, look, there is that informal just catch up sort of stuff is really important, and that's part of the reason that we moved from West Perth down to Fremantle. Um, Fremantle, I think at last count there was 6 or 7 bars within 80 metres of my office.
Wow.
There is now one downstairs as well that's just opened up. But the thing is that if we are looking at our team and we want them to come into the office, then it's the carrot or the stick sort of thing.
Yeah.
We're not going to just beat them and say you have to come in. We actually have to have an office environment that is welcoming, that is friendly, that is in a good location or a great location where we are now, has amazing amenities around it, and we know that as employers we are competing with people's work from home situations. We have to have a reason to come into the office other than the boss said.
Well, that doesn't work anymore, does it?
No.
All right. So this actually brings me to one of my favorite sections of the podcast. I call it as two jokes and a tip section. This is where you got to tell us two jokes and give us a tip.
Oh, I only know one.
Oh, well, just because you're a nice guy, we'll let you go get away with one.
Good. This one's a bit of a burner. So I like telling dad jokes. Sometimes he laughs. That's it.
Yeah. Well, being a dad, I can understand that because I tell a few dad jokes to my son and he says, "Dad, what's wrong with you?"
Yeah. There's been a few times where there's been a collective moan through the office when I've just managed to just time the perfect deadpan dad joke, and there's just a pain that goes through the office, and it's like, yes, today's been a good day.
Yeah. All right, give us a tip.
The tip. Look, I think it's one that I try to instill in the team is that never assume that you're right, and always ask questions.
I'm actually making a note of this. So interesting you mentioned this tip because we used to have our national sales manager, Adam Scully, and he always said, assume is making ass of you and me. So never assume things,
Yes.
especially in the kind of world we are living in now. It's
Yep.
very easy to assume things, but asking questions is the bit that we need to get into the habit of. And
Yeah.
being a presenter, being a trainer, being a lecturer myself, one of the things that I always encourage is people asking questions. Because if you don't ask questions, chances are that you're not going to understand the topic or what you're doing. And a lot
Yeah.
of people are scared of asking questions because they think that it could be a stupid question or whatever. But one thing that I
Yeah.
always tell people is that there's nothing like a stupid question. All questions are important. So you are
Yeah.
spot on. Never assume things.
Yeah. 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 Like I'm sure there's something somewhere deep buried down in Navisworks that maybe you'd need to ask a question about, Deepak.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But the thing is, even subject matter experts still need to learn things, and
100%.
anyone that I've met that's an absolute guru, like yourself, has like that open mentality of like, well, I'm a sponge. I just want to learn and process and then share. So the only way you do that is by asking questions of yourself, of
Exactly.
the software, of situations or people.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the kind words, though. I'm not sure if I can call myself a guru or not, but yeah, that a lot
How
of
many books
people.
have you written, Deepak?
Thank
All of
you.
them. All
Yeah,
of them.
yeah. So I I'll be completing 15 years in this company soon. And a lot of
Yep.
people ask me this question, how can you be in this job for so long? And I always tell them that the best part of this job is that I get to learn something new almost every second week. In some cases,
Yep.
almost every week, because there's something new coming up every second week that I get to learn new. I
Yep.
just posted the other day on LinkedIn that within just BIM 360 and ACC, there are 40 new enhancements that they have introduced. 40 new enhancements. Then there's a
Yep.
new update of Bluebeam that came out 20.4. So it's amazing, or 20.2.4, or whatever it is. But it's amazing that we get all these new enhancements coming over, and then we get to learn all these new things. And
Yep.
learning is what is very, very important for us as humans, because I reckon once we stop learning, this is where we kind of stop being people. I reckon then
Yep.
it makes us not people. I would say I don't want to use any other term, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah. Furniture, maybe. You just become furniture.
yeah,
Just hang around and
furniture, correct.
yeah.
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 I met this gentleman once, and he said, if I could, if I could give you one life lesson, that would be to always keep your eyes and ears open to learn something new, because every
Mm.
day in your life you can learn something new from someone.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always surprising and always a delight. Oh, I didn't know that.
Exactly, it's like as I've heard a lot of blooming people say this. They call it aha moment. Aha! I didn't
Yes.
know that. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So I totally
Yeah.
agree with that, and
Yeah.
and that's why a lot of times although free time is luxury these days, you don't get any free time. But if I ever get any free time, what I do is I try to go and watch some of these not so famous speakers. I
Mm-hmm.
watch their sessions, and because famous speakers everybody knows and you watch them on regular basis, but not so famous
Yeah.
speakers, to see what they're talking about, to see how they present, to see what they're doing. Sometimes it
Yep.
is just to learn something new from them in terms of their presentation styles.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Brilliant. So yeah, so we are almost at the end of our podcast. I just want to say a big, big thank you, Shaun Miller, for coming and joining us in this podcast. I know it's a really busy time for you, so we really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, look, an absolute pleasure. It was a real privilege to get the invitation, and just thanks for just to hark back to the North South Challenge. Thank you very much for your support with that as well. Really appreciate K Group helping out with that, and obviously my day-to-day work and all the rest of it. You guys are great.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. So, for our viewers and listeners, I just want to quickly recap this. The tip that Shaun gave us is never assume you are right. Always ask questions. And I reckon this should be the motto of all of us. As I said, one of my colleagues, Adam Scully, once said, assume meaning making us of you and me. So, never assume things. Always be willing to ask questions. Always be willing to learn something new. On that note, I would like to again say thank you to Shaun Miller. And I will see you guys in our next podcast. Have a good one and stay safe, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you.